For us, it was always about integrity. And the first time he said, son, why don't you taste these teas? Why don't you tell me what you think? With that humility comes tremendous strength because you never take anything for granted. There were many such moments, but probably the one that sticks in my mind most would be the time that just a few feet away from here, we had a shareholders meeting and one of the shareholders protested at the amount of money that was being used for humanitarian purposes when my father got up and said, duly noted, but we own the majority of this business and therefore thank you for your observation, which showed me not just someone standing up, in this case it was to a foreign fund, but also a demonstration of integrity, because to my father, he acknowledged what this fund was saying, that look, you're taking the profits of the business away, but it was his acknowledgement and demonstration of the fact that without that kindness at the heart of our business, we would not have the resilience nor the success that we have been blessed to enjoy. Well, it didn't really cost him anything, but it did in a conventional framework. But for us as a business, with Jesus as its head, the implications and the demonstrative impact for other businesses is significant, because we do what we do because of our faith. But then for others to see a person like my father, whom many admired, to see him so powerfully stand by his integrity and his faith at a time when challenged by a foreign fund, I think not only for him, but not only for others, but for me, was a very powerful demonstration of the fact that if you have a principle, you stand by it no matter what. They could have turned around and made negative comments. They could have gone to the SEC and created difficulties for us. But I think the person who was asking the question on behalf of that fund understood that he was a person who was doing the right thing and standing by his integrity. So the question of protest really didn't arise. Again, there were many, but I think probably what he taught me was the fact that for him, kindness, whether it was business or personal, it was something that was a part of being human. There was no difference, even though conventional, outdated business theory indicates that the social responsibility of businesses is to make profit. But for my father, he was in a way blessed because he didn't have the resources, or his parents didn't have the resources to take him to university. And so he was governed by family values, and those were Christian family values coming from little hamlet in Negombo. And so for him, in every instance, whether it was COVID, where our business was severely affected, or whether it was the economic crisis, you had to continue to do what is right because it is right, not because it's convenient, not because it's a reaction to the environment. And I think that has given me the strength to be able to continue in that vein, because today you have greater chaos and volatility than ever before. And to be able to stand your ground no matter what, having the assurance of our God standing behind us and having our faith, and knowing that integrity is something that you can never compromise. It's biblical, but also it's resilience. If you frame it in lay terms, it's a strength of this business. For us, it was always about integrity. And integrity demands that when you have a problem, you find a solution that doesn't compromise your integrity. So quality is our raison d'etre. It's about taste. It's about taste adventure, the natural goodness in tea, but also about the ethical purpose. So today, in these volatile and unpredictable, chaotic times, the easiest thing might be to say, let's play a little bit with the quality. Let's adjust some of our quality controls, but yet maintaining those and doing it without variation enforces on us the demand for creativity and entrepreneurship. Now that's what business is about. It's not about reacting to your environment. I mean, that means you have no backbone, you have no integrity, you have no conviction, and you don't have the courage of your conviction. But being able to understand, analyze, absorb the external environment, align it with your own principles, in this case our values, that has been something that my father taught me. From the first example that I explained to you when confronted with a challenge, to always stand your ground. So it's about a solution being creatively, entrepreneurially, and with integrity defined. Not saying, oh my gosh, we've got a problem, we've got an economic crisis, let's shut down, let's close down. No, that would be defeat. But here, I think we have the assurance of a very powerful, almighty God standing with us, who's going to assure our success no matter what. And so in that context, for us, of course, that's an unfair advantage, you might say, but we know that no matter what, do the right thing, and He has our back. Throughout COVID, we would have breakfast, often lunch and dinner together, because we lived next to each other. And so there was always that moment. My father loved classical music. He would love opera, and the one moment was he would really bloom when he listened to Nesum Doma, and he loved some great choruses to a point where he would call up Pastor Dishan and say, Pastor, can you please sing this weekend? And I would tell him, look, it's being televised, it's not easy for them to do all this, but nevertheless he always tried. And so I think it was those moments to sit with my father, and for us it was a lot about tea, about trying different teas, about putting in a little bit of orange peel, a little bit of cinnamon, trying this and that. And my father always enjoyed that, because it wasn't about the tea, it was just about family. And I do the same thing with my son right now, and I think that's a joy that you have when you're able to spend time with not only family but also friends. For us, it's over tea, and tea brings people together, but also the fragrance and the whole process. So we finish every meal with a glass pot of tea, where you have the tea and we put different ingredients in, so you make it a little bit of a theater, but completing a meal around the table with a few people, with his family or friends, and enjoying this beautiful beverage, that's I have 1,001 memories of that. Always. My father would rarely speak of his emotion. He was from a generation that would look with pride, tell everybody else how proud he was of my brother and I, of my children, my 2 sons and daughter, but would never really say it to your face. It was just the way. But you understand that, and you hear from a lot of other people, but I think more than anything, you feel it. And so I could feel, firstly, in the trust. And the first time he said, son, why don't you taste these teas? Why don't you tell me what you think? And I think it was the effort, the determination, which was always steeped in discipline. Because for that generation, and something I try to emulate, not very well, is to maintain the discipline of learning, of understanding, to impart respect for each other, to impart humility. All of these are ingredients of success that you don't learn in business school. So I observed and I learned these from my father, but I felt also his pride when I adopted them and when he would see me emulating him in many ways. Of course, when in family business, you have many instances when there's a little bit of conflict, but that's good because from that you understand each other better, you learn to respect each other more, and gradually the trust developed, the appreciation, and well, the rest is history. We've had many of those challenging times. And I think the one thing, actually there's two. So if you'll indulge me, I might share them both. The first is the acknowledgement of the fact that you make money to give it away to people less fortunate than yourself. So when we had COVID, regardless of the fact that many estates couldn't produce, regardless of the fact that business significantly slowed, we understood and embraced that clarity that my father gave, that you always do the right thing no matter what your circumstances. So the MJ Foundation, which benefits from profits from Dilmah, continued its work. And my father simply told me when at the time I said, look, we're going through the toughest period of our history. He simply said, look, this is the time that you build reserves in a business for, and I have built reserves, use them, which was phenomenal because it gives you beautiful clarity, but also something that he also taught me that will always stand me in good stead, which is also strengthening my children, is the fact that with success comes responsibility. The responsibility, it manifests only through humility. So no matter how successful you become, you always need to understand that the success is not of your own making. Firstly, there's God who gives you the values that determine your actions. Next, there's, in my case, was my father who taught me everything I know. Then the people, our workers, our staff, customers. You simply cannot in this world consider arrogance as an option or an excuse for anything, because there is no reason for anyone to be arrogant. No matter how successful, how wealthy you are, ultimately it is the product of a combination of factors which are beyond your control. The street cleaner works probably harder than I do, but God chose me to be born to my father, chose my father because he had a heart of kindness. And this is what we need to acknowledge. And with that humility comes tremendous strength, because you never take anything for granted.